course you know why it's happening. You're working out too hard. You're not eating enough food. Your body's under stress. So if you don't want that to happen to you, then you shouldn't compete.
And for me, being straight, 100% honest, I've used steroids for about 10 years. I was natural. I competed 42 shows. I did 100% natural. Then wow. I took enhancements after. So I waited longer than 99% of people would not compete for decades first. I was at my natural genetic limit. I said, hey, I want a pro card. Started taking steroids. Did that for 10 years. Stopped. I've only been on HRT for 4 years. People can believe me or not, but people are saying, how can you sit there and tell people not to use steroids when you yourself did them? I'm like, I did it for 10 years. To me, that would be like I was 300 pound and I ate like a pig for 10 years. I ate like shit for 10 years. Then I woke up and said, this isn't healthy. And now I'm eating healthy. And then I say, hey, I don't want you to do what I did for 10 years because it's not healthy. I'm on HRT. Now, adding to that, is HRT healthy? Is it okay? Am I still, my doctor prescribes this. This is what they feel is best for me. But am I in danger? Like, based on what your experience is and what you know, do you think that HRT is something that people can do and still be healthy? Or do you think that it's absolutely the same thing as doing steroids?
No, if it's implicated, then there's health benefits. But you have to have your blood work done and have the values match with what you're doing. I think that the word HRT is kind of it's kind of like how they used to put like low fat on things or low calorie, where people just kind of scapegoat and say it's HRT. And then you find out what HRT really means. And it doesn't really make, it's not really HRT. Hormone replacement means that you have a low value. You have to be replacing something. It doesn't mean hormone supplementation, so can it be a value? Yes, definitely. But I don't think that, I don't know the percentage, but I know that a lot of people abuse it.
Yeah, I like how you compared HRT to like being low fat, because it was like the buzzword. It's low in saturated fat, like all this stuff when I was growing up. Because what's the big problem now is you see all the younger influencers. There's guys in their 20s and their 30s, and they're just hopping on HRT, and it's like they don't even say the dose. Perhaps it's 250 milligrams. They're putting on 20 pounds of muscle. I'm on 140 milligrams a week. My test levels are in the 500, 600, and 700s over the last 4 years. That's what all of my tests have said. So I'm in that normal reference range, not super physiological. And I did that because after 6 months, my testosterone levels were below 50. And so because of the testosterone I'd done in my past, it just wasn't recovering. Mm-hmm. So for me, I needed it. Now, perhaps if I waited 2 years, eventually it would have got back to normal. But I certainly think that younger people are abusing HRT and getting away with it almost as an excuse, which is, I think, a big problem. But let's use this for your expertise. You're a female. Now, I bet a lot of people have no idea that HRT for females is a thing. Can you touch on, do women take testosterone replacement therapy? And if so, what doses are girls taking? Like therapy, like what do women need?
So I think it's different for premenopausal versus postmenopausal women on what type of hormone replacement they will require and their values. And I think it's also different based on their prior PED use. You'll see some people with extremely suppressed testosterone levels because they have been on whatever for so long that their body just has stopped making testosterone. So those values will different based on what their numbers come back with. And then also, there's women that are postmenopausal and they will be taking progesterone or estrogen replacement because, estrogen, as much as people think it's so bad, it helps with recovery. It helps with femininity, beauty, and like skin rejuvenation, all that kind of stuff in low doses. If someone is postmenopausal and they need to have those things come back to them.
Yeah. And for women, because they're taking, they might be taking test, trend, Anavar, you name it, for shows. When that time comes to retire, and perhaps they've been using steroids for 5 or 10 years, are a lot of these women going to require HRT, like to feel healthy and normal again? Because if you've been, as a man, taking testosterone for a long time, your body gets suppressed, you have a low sex drive. What is it like for a woman who's been taking Anavar, SARMs, Tren, you name it, whatever they might be taking, to suddenly come off? Do they suffer the same like depression that men can feel, low sex drive? Like, what is it like for these women to come off? Because there's so many young women that are probably watching this right now that are on their first cycle or contemplating it. What can you say to these young women who might be watching this right now who want to be an IFBB Pro bikini girl? Maybe they're on their first cycle right now. What would you say? What is in store for them?
So there's post-cycle therapy for men. Post-cycle therapy the same post-cycle therapies that men take. If your coach is trying to tell you that you should take a post-cycle therapy, don't listen to them. There's not post-cycle therapy that is effective for females in the same regard that it is for men. What people do is they taper off of drugs so that they don't feel such a dramatic effect if they're taking high dose. You can either taper off. There's not post-cycle therapy. I would say wait a month to come off of everything. Wait a month and then try and wait to see if your period comes back, because there's not really any point in trying to get blood work right when you are taking everything or right when you come off. Wait a month, see if your period comes back. Hormone replacement clinics will want you to at least get a period once before they draw your blood. It depends on the place that you're going and the doctor that you talk to. Have your blood work done and then kind of go from there and make sure that your levels are good. But if you try and come off of everything and then throw hormone replacement therapy at it right after you come off of everything, that's superfluous. You don't need to try and do that. You can just wait. Your body will come back to, it should. If it's your first cycle, your body should come back to normal. If this is your 18th cycle and your body doesn't know how to be off of everything, you're going to have a different time. Yeah, you're going to have all of those different side effects that you're saying, you decrease energy. Usually women have decreased libido it depends what drugs you're taking, but usually on PrEP, they have that. So hopefully that returns. The whole long list of things you're going to suffer from.
Speaking of like amenorrhea, your periods, and you just mentioned, I quickly want to touch on this. You said that a lot of times women have a lower sex drive when they start taking performance enhancing drugs. My experience is it's quite the opposite. Now, do you think it might be just the diet? Because, for example, when I was blasting Test and Tren and all the steroids, my sex drive was at its lowest, but it's because I wasn't eating. When you're in a very restrictive diet, 5 under 4, like shredded, your desire to procreate, it's gone. I would be more like sexually interested at 15% body fat taking nothing than in a contest diet with all kinds of testosterone. So is it the same for women? Do you think that women are, let's just say it, are more horny if they're taking supplements? Or you think it does the opposite? Is it the opposite for women?
I've heard both things. I've heard that if someone's on a caloric surplus and they take steroids, certain type of anabolics can increase their sex drive. And then those same anabolics, when coupled with a caloric deficit, they will have no sex drive. So is it diet driven? Maybe. Is it right when they start the cycle that they have an increased sex drive, and it's towards the end of the cycle that it decreases? Maybe. Is it the situation they're in because they're so hangry and arguing with their partner that by the end of their cycle, like the end of their steroid cycle, they like don't want to be touched by anyone? Like there's so many, it's multifactorial. So
and seeing is, I feel like a woman's period is so crucial to talk about here. There might be some women right now that have just lost their period. They're prepping for a show and they're taking certain things. How dangerous is this? Should they immediately go see their doctor? You're on a 16-week prep. You're 8 weeks out and you've lost your period. Should you be concerned? Is that going to affect your ability to have a kid later in life? Should you go see your doctor? Should you immediately tell your coach? Should you stop taking whatever you're taking? Like, how serious is this?
So long term, you can have health problems for sure if you don't have a period for an extended period of time. But is it likely and almost guaranteed that if you are in the contest shape that they want you in, that you're going to lose your period? I'd say yes. I actually have talked to very, very few pros. Actually, I don't even know any pros and I've had a lot of conversations with different pros that have told me that absolutely 100% they've always lost their period in their prep. And luckily most people's come back. Some people and every time I post about it on my story, they'll say, it took a year to come back. It took 6 months to come back. Now it's irregular. To suffer from infertility because you decided that you wanted to do a prep and diet, crash diet, you really have to think about the long-term consequences. if this is the first time you're doing a prep, you're 8 weeks out, you just lost your period, to rush to the doctor, they're going to tell you, oh, you got to eat more food. You're like, you know what you're doing. It's not an emergency. An emergency is like, you don't know why it's happening and you're having all these different type of symptoms. Of course, you know why it's happening. You're working out too hard. You're not eating enough food. Your body's under stress. So if you don't want that to happen to you, then you shouldn't compete. It's like that simple.
Great answer. And another topic, birth control. I'm not sure how much you're aware or not aware of all the studies on women birth control and the results on how it affects your performance. But based on the meta-analysis I've read, I've done a video on this, women who take birth control are more likely to suffer a performance decrease. I was coaching somebody who was training for the Olympics for swimming, and they were on birth control, and they just added that in, and their swimming times all went down. And so they had to stop. And I don't think it's common knowledge that women would know that, hey, you're taking hormones. These hormones can, in fact, negatively affect how you're feeling and performing. I can't specifically name certain people that I know, but I can tell you that taking birth control can have a negative impact on, for example, sex drive or how many gains you're making in the gym, putting on muscle, your performance. And so can you add anything to this? Are you familiar with any of these studies? Do you know people?
Think about it at the most simplistic level, because birth control is telling your body, hey, don't get pregnant because we already are. Yes. So if someone is pregnant, why would their body be trying to optimize muscle growth? You're in, you have high progesterone, your estrogen's increasing, you're not in this anabolic shredded state, you're in nurturing your body and like a very feminine, fertile state. Like, well, not fertile, you're already pregnant, but like your body thinks you're pregnant. So of course.
I think we got a lot though. This can be, as you can see, the topics are multi-topics, and I think a lot of women can benefit from it. I wanted to cover as much like what you would know, because it's not as often I have an expert female on my panel to explain things. So I think this will be great. I think that people learn a lot.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. You're really easy to talk to. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me and being on my show, and it was great to see you at the Olympia. Check her out on YouTube, Sunny Andrews, but on Instagram, Dr. Sunny Andrews. Wish her the best. See if she can make it to the Olympia yet again. Hopefully you enjoyed these videos. And until next time, I am out.